Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK, and today I'm going to be sharing with you one of my absolute favourite stitches, which is the Wattle Stitch. Now this stitch I've used in a lot of my patterns, including the most recent pattern release, which is the cushion pattern that features these 3 yarns to make a beautiful cushion. The Wattle Stitch itself is quite an easy one to master. I would consider it almost a beginner stitch because it only uses US single crochets, US double crochets with a chain 1 in between. It works up really quickly because it's worked into those chain 1 spaces. Now before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on one of my crochet tutorials or patterns again. The materials that I'm going to be using for this tutorial is this Furls Wander yarn. Now you will have noticed that this video is marked as sponsored content, and that's because this yarn was kindly sent to me by Furls itself so that I could share with you this beautiful pattern and this tutorial. So Furls Wander acrylic is one of my favourite 100% acrylic yarns. As you can see, there's a real gentle sheen to this yarn, and it is an worsted weight, so a size 4 medium, which in the UK would be an acrylic weight yarn. Now this yarn is only available in the US, but it does ship directly from there, and it really is worth it if you can get your hands on some. Now as you can see, the recommended hook size is a 5mm hook. In the pattern tutorial that I shared, I used a 5.5mm to really loosen up that fabric. Now this is the look of the crocheted fabric once it's all finished. As you can see, I'm going to be striping it every row. So I'm also going to be sharing with you not only how to work the wattle stitch, but also how to carry your yarn up the side without having to do too many colour changes and worry about those ends. I really love the way that this looks when it's striped with 3 different colours. So the colours that I've used in this pattern is the Moonbeam, which is this kind of light grey. I've also used this Bergamo, which is the most wonderfully light lilac. It's such a light colour, it really is beautiful. And then I've teamed it with Enchanted. Now this is not a normal colour that I would go for, but when they're combined they look absolutely, well, delicious if I'm honest. I think the bright purple stripe really makes it quite striking. So as I said, if you're making the cushion that you're seeing here, you are going to need a 5.5mm hook, which is what I'm going to be using for this tutorial. This is a very well loved hook. I think I've had this one for about 3 or 4 years now, and it is a streamline resin. This has not been gifted. This is one of the ones that I bought, but it doesn't really go colour wise, but I'm sure you won't mind. You're not going to judge me for that. So gather all of your materials and let's get started. I'm going to be starting with the deepest colour, which is this Bergamo. So I'm just going to pull a length out of that and push everything out of the way. As I said, the Wattle Stitch is a really nice, easy stitch, as long as you know how to count to 3. We're going to start by making a slip knot and placing that onto our hook. So the Wattle Stitch is made up of any multiple of 3, and then you need to add on 3 for your first stitch too. So we're going to be making a sample swatch here, a little bit smaller than the whole length of my cushion. We're going to make a starting chain of 24. We simply yarn over the hook and bring our hook through the loop on our hook. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 24. This is a nice small swatch for us to work on so that we can master this stitch nice and easily. We're going to start by working into our second chain from hook, placing 1 US single crochet. So we just insert the hook into that second chain from hook, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over and pull through 2. Now that is of course the same as a UK double crochet. To the next chain we're going to begin our pattern repeat. So we work 1 US single crochet, we then chain 1, and into that same stitch or chain we're going to work 1 US double crochet, which is the same as a UK treble crochet. So we yarn over the hook, insert our hook, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over to pull through the first 2 loops before we yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And that essentially is the wattle stitch. We're then going to skip the next 2 chains before we repeat the wattle stitch into the next. So we skip 2, insert our hook into the next chain, ready to work a single crochet. We chain 1, and then working back into that same chain, we're going to yarn over to work a US double crochet. So bring that loop up, pull through 2, and pull through 2. We're going to repeat this all the way down. We skip the next 2 chains before working 1 single crochet into the next, followed by a chain 1, and then working back into that same chain again, we yarn over to work our double crochet. We skip the next 2 and repeat it all again. We work a single crochet, a chain 1, followed by yarning over and inserting our hook back into that same chain to work another double crochet. We skip 2, insert our hook into that next chain to work single crochet, chain 1, and then yarn over, ready to insert our hook into the same chain again to work a double crochet. We're going to continue to repeat this all the way down, skipping 2 and then working that wattle stitch into the next. Repeat that all the way down, and I'll meet you once you have just 3 chains remaining, ready to work our final stitch. So once you have just 3 chains remaining, we're going to work a final single crochet into that last chain. So we skip the next 2, working a final single crochet into that last chain. So at the end of row 1 of this sample, we should have 7 wattle stitches and 2 single crochets. If you're looking to recreate the colourway that I used with my cushion, I would recommend doing a multiple of 3 colours, or odd numbered colours, so 3, 5, 7, etc. because that means that each row you'll have a new colour to pick up. Now, to make our colour changes as seamless as possible, I'm going to just take my hook out of my last stitch and pull back so that I can add in my next colour really neatly and easily. So I'm going to finish my last stitch by inserting, yarning over and pulling up, but I'm not going to complete it in the purple or the bergamot. Instead, I'm going to grab my next colour, which is my moonbeam, pop the tail away from my work at the back and finish that stitch in my new colour. Our new colour is now attached. It's as simple as that. All we need to do now is we're going to make our turning chain of 1, which does not count as a stitch, ready to continue our pattern. For row 2, we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into the same stitch as our chain 1. And then we're going to be working into our chain 1 spaces from our previous row. It's a little bit more difficult to see this when we've just worked into our chain, but if you look from the top, you should see there's your double crochet from the previous row, there's your chain 1, and there's your single crochet. And we're going in between those stitches, and you will see there is a hole where your chain 1 is. So from the top, you've got 1 stitch, chain 1, and another stitch, and underneath is your chain 1 space. And this is where we're going to work the wattle stitch. So we're going to insert our hook into that chain 1 space, not the space underneath, and work a single crochet, chain 1, yarn over to work our double crochet into that same chain 1 space. We then skip the next 2 stitches, ready to work into our chain 1 space again. I'll move it up, you'll be able to see it a lot clearer. So ignore that space from our chain. There's our chain 1 space, so you're skipping 1, 2 and going underneath that chain 1, ready to work, 1 single crochet, a chain 1 and another double crochet all into that same chain 1 space. We're going to skip 2 stitches to find our next chain 1 space, and again we're working our single crochet, chain 1 followed by our double crochet again. Skip the next 2 stitches to find your chain 1 space, and that's where we're inserting our hook. We work a single crochet, a chain 1, and then we yarn over, ready to work our double crochet. It's a bit floppy when you've only got your first 2 rows going, so continue to repeat that all the way across. Depending on how big your starting chain was, it might take you longer than mine, making sure that you're working into that chain 1 space, and I will see you at the end of row 2. Once you've reached the end of row 2, you're probably wondering, where do I place that last stitch? Don't worry, I'm going to share with you. As you can see, we've only got 2 stitches remaining in this row. We're going to skip that next stitch and work 1 single crochet into that last single crochet from the previous row. Now I'm going to be adding my 3rd colour in, so I'm going to yarn over and bring my loop up and pause there to grab my 3rd colour. I'm just going to place that over with the tail at the back and pull through to finish that last stitch of row 2. Now your stitch count shouldn't change between row 2 and row 1. Maybe you can hear what my neighbour is up to. I'm not sure, I can't see them, but they're banging away on some pot or something. So at the end of row 2, you can start to see that coming across. We're going to make our turning chain of 1 that does not count as a stitch. And we're ready to do row 3, which is a repeat of row 2. We are just working it in a different colour. At the end of this row, I'm going to be showing you how to carry up your yarn so that you don't have to worry about weaving in so many ends. With row 3, we start by making a single crochet into the top of that first stitch. And again, we're working into these chain 1 spaces, working 1 single crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet into that same stitch. Just repeating that all the way across, skipping those 2 stitches in between, working into our chain 1 space. So we're skipping 1, 2, and there's our chain 1. And we just repeat the same, so a single crochet, a chain 1, followed by a double crochet, all into the same chain 1 space. Repeat that all the way across, and I will meet you for our final stitch of row 3, ready to carry up the first colour. So once we've reached just those 2 stitches remaining, we're going to change back to our first colour that we used. So to do that, we're going to start our stitch in our current colour in the top of that single crochet from the previous row. So we insert, yarn over to bring our loop up and pause. Now I'm going to bring my colour around from the back. I've dropped the colour that we were using, that light purple, yarning over and completing this stitch using the colour from the previous row. Now as you see, I'm just pulling it down because I don't want it to be so tight that it's going to cause the fabric to cinch. So you have to just be a little bit careful that you're not pulling it too tightly. So you can see there's quite a length there from the last stitch. And then once I'm happy with the position of the yarn, chain 1 to secure. And you can see that there's no tightness there at all, and we're just ready to continue working our next row. So we do that single crochet in that first stitch, ready to work our single crochet, chain 1, followed by a double crochet in the next chain 1 space. And we can repeat these colour changes at the end of each row so that we do complete those wonderful colour changes. You can see these colour changes where I've carried the yarn up, but there's no need to worry about those because I'm going to be working a border onto this cushion, which will begin with a row of single crochets all the way round, which will, of course, like it would cover my ends, is going to cover my colour changes as well. So you can continue to repeat row 2, changing colour every row if you want to, or every other row if you're using an even number of colours. And you can carry those colour changes up the side of your project, safe in the knowledge that you can hide those colour changes with no problem, simply using a border at the edge of your project. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning how to crochet the wattle stitch. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to give this a thumbs up. I will see you again soon for another crochet tutorial. Until then, keep it cozy.